could he say something like that? He's body shaming me. Cancel Matt Rife. You can't cancel me. I'm not your gym membership.
Matt Rife is being canceled. He's offended the woke audience with his new Netflix special. But I'll tell you something you probably don't know about Matt Rife and this whole situation. And I think he is monetizing cancel culture on purpose. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend, where we like to call out the lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants, shine the light of awareness on woke absurdities, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters. And of course, part of fighting for freedom is fighting cancel culture, or more so ignoring it so it just sort of withers and dies. And cancel culture, boy, it loves to come out in response to comedians and their content, and comedians and their Netflix specials, as we've grown accustomed to with Dave Chappelle. Now, there's a comedian, he's a massive comedian out there, Matt Rife, and not to compare, but when it comes to good-looking comedians, obviously he's second best next to me. So anyway, his recent Netflix special came out. You can see it here. It's called Natural Selection. And he has on it a domestic violence joke. I'll show you just a second, that seemingly offended his audience. We'll tell you more about his audience in a moment, but first, as you watch this joke, just keep in mind that it's estimated his audience is roughly 80% women. And when you observe his looks, it's not hard to understand why 80% of his audience is women. So let's take a look at the joke from Matt Rife's special that has people melting down, calling for the cancellation of Matt Rife. String up the comedians. We're on a witch hunt. Anybody who says things, we're gonna crucify him.
I've only been to Baltimore one time. I ate lunch there, and the hostess who seats you at the restaurant had a black eye. A full black eye. And it wasn't like, what happened? It was pretty obvious what happened. And we couldn't get over the fact that we're like, this is the face of the company? This is who you have greeting people? And my boy who I was with was like, yeah, I feel bad for her, man. I feel like they should put her in the kitchen or something where nobody has to see her face, And I was like, yeah, but I feel like if she could cook, she wouldn't have that black eye.
How offensive is that? Now, that's obviously dark humor, and dark humor, it's just one of the sort of what I call the love languages of humor. It's not necessarily my favorite, but when I hear other good comedians doing dark humor, I appreciate it. It's great. Ron White's probably my all-time favorite dark humor comedian. And dark humor, it's one of the predominant styles of Matt Rife. Here's just another quick clip of him doing a little bit of crowd work where he goes dark.
Virgo men are the worst!
All right, let's talk to somebody who spent Valentine's Day alone. Let's see.
That's actually pretty good. But the cancellation for his domestic violence joke. A joke, people. It's interesting. The cancellation is being sent in mail-in ballots arriving at 3 a.m. all of a sudden one night at the election centers. Weird how that works. So the mainstream media, they're covering it. They're on board. We'll help propagate cancel culture. Weak woke people, they're offended, and we're gonna be the voice on their behalf. So for example, Forbes covers it with their article entitled "The Controversy Over Matt Rife's Netflix Special," and his response explained. And independent media is getting involved as well. Independent media is, I think, a little bit better to pay attention to than mainstream media. Here is podcaster Bradley Martin just with a quick snippet, I think, which summarizes a good perspective over Matt Rife's joke.
Dude, here's the deal. It's a joke. Does this offend you?
No, it didn't offend me.
Guys, shut the up. Stop being pussies. Laugh at a joke. It's a comedian, dude.
Yep, that's actually a really good summary right there. I hope everybody in the world hears that. Now, why are people offended? And also, I think the other important question that not many people are talking about is Matt Rife doing this on purpose to basically monetize cancel culture? Get to that in a second, but first, in response to people being outraged over his joke, Matt Rife put this on his Instagram. Here's a screenshot from his stories. If you've ever been offended by a joke I've told, here's a link to my official apology. Then you tap the link and it goes to this special needs helmet. Kind of shout out, homage to Candace Owens. Yeah, life's tough. Get a helmet. Why are people getting offended? I don't think there's anything necessarily special about what Matt Rife did. People are getting offended because they're easily offendable. And people are easily offendable when they feel insecure. And when you're insecure about your insecurities, you're going to scream and shout and try to shut other people down instead of actually feeling and dealing with insecurities that were already inside you that you were just mildly reminded of when someone said a joke. And the other interesting thing, a lot of the easily offended woke culture doesn't realize this. If someone says a joke and you don't like it, stop listening to them. It's interesting, like when you play his special on Netflix, Netflix actually has a stop button. It's weird. You can actually take a little bit of self-responsibility, hit stop, and no longer listen to it. It's pretty easy to work out right there. And on the topic of why his audience got offended, I mean, I'll remind you, 80% of his audience is women. And I would guess statistically that there's a higher percentage of women that would be offended by a domestic violence joke against women than men. If his audience was 80% men, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. But also, just loose speculation here, I would also estimate that a lot of his audience is woke, as opposed to my audience where I think there's like 0% woke people in. We're just all like, dude, when's January 6th? Let's go back. Don't storm the Capitol. I don't recommend it. But, you know, he's a bit of a mainstream entertainer. And case in point, here you can see a picture of him on Jimmy Fallon's show. Jimmy Fallon, I mean, he's certainly on the Mount Rushmore of wokeness, as are all late night hosts. Shout out to Stephen Colbert and his vaccine dance, just masterpiece. So the fact that he's mainstream enough to fit in with people like Jimmy Fallon tells me, yeah, there's probably a decent chance that a majority of his demographic is woke. Cool. And of course, we know woke people have a condition where they're easily offendable. But the plot thickens as Matt Rife faces cancel culture. I believe he is doing his best to blow this controversy up as big as possible. Why? Because he's a smart businessman. He is brilliant. I'll tell you some of his numbers in just a second. They'll just blow your mind. But with everybody talking about his offensive joke in his new Netflix special, guess what that is? It's free advertising. I didn't know he had a new Netflix special out until I heard about the controversy. So when you have all the mainstream media, you have Forbes, just all the crappy newspapers that you should wipe your butt with, when you have them covering the controversy, what they're actually doing is promoting his special, making people more aware of it. And when people are aware of something controversial, most of them aren't like staying away from it. Like, oh, that's a bad influence. Let me stay away. No, usually they're going towards it. They're like, well, I'm curious about this. Let me watch it. Consider these numbers. Here in an article on Deadline entitled, How Comedian Matt Rife Pulled Off Stratospheric Rise from Pandemic Era Pickup Truck Stand-Up to a Sold-Out Global Tour with Live Nation. Get a load of these numbers. Within 48 hours of his tour tickets going on sale, he sold 720,000 tickets in 48 hours. Now, you can use a conservative estimate of ticket prices of $25. I guarantee a lot of the tickets are more than that. And you realize he's making millions. Someone told me within 48 hours, he had sold $42 million worth of tickets. That's second, third-hand information at this point. But nonetheless, he's making tens of millions of dollars within 48 hours of his tour going on sale. What that tells us, amongst other pieces of evidence, is he is very good at self-promotion. He is very good at business. And of course, his business is essentially promoting himself. For example, anytime like cancel culture comes after me, I don't engage with it. Cancel culture only works if you consent to it, if you engage with it, and if you fear losing what they could take away. If you're concerned with it, now you're within the frame of cancel culture. You are doing the dance with cancel culture. Matt Rife is very much consenting to cancel culture here, but I think Mr. Rife is playing cancel culture for the morons that they are. I think he is just using their little cancel culture attempts to monetize them, raise more awareness, get a ton of free publicity. And on his cancel culture publicity tour, Matt Rife recently went on Jordan Peterson. Of course, he's got one of the biggest podcast shows in the world. Jordan Peterson is a huge name. You get so many new eyeballs if you're on Jordan Peterson, which I would also guess a lot of Jordan Peterson's audience is a different demographic than Matt Rife's audience. So he's not only getting a lot of exposure, he's probably getting a lot of exposure to new people, raising new awareness about Matt Rife. Take a look at a quick clip of Matt Rife on Jordan Peterson's show.
You're a comedian and you got canceled for a domestic assault joke. And then in response to that, instead of apologizing like a good boy, you put up a joke ad site about special needs helmets to protect the people who are offended by you. And now, to get yourself out of trouble, you're going to come on my podcast.
I never
That's
said
your
that.
plan.
I was hoping it would make things way worse.
Which is pretty good, as not too many people are smeared and attacked and attempted to be canceled more than Jordan Peterson. So like, cool, you're being canceled. So to win people back from that, you're going on like the guy cancel culture goes after the most. It wouldn't make sense if you're trying to scoot around the fire of cancel culture. But if you're looking to intensify the fire of cancel culture, pour gasoline on it, it makes a lot of sense to go on Jordan Peterson. And insider information is Jordan Peterson didn't reach out to Matt Rife. Matt Rife reached out to Jordan Peterson, which tells us he's got a lot of motivation to get out there and use this cancel culture little campaign to his advantage. He wants to leverage as much publicity out of this as possible. Thus, he reaches out to Jordan Peterson. And during the Jordan Peterson interview, there's also a little bit of, I don't know if hypocrisy is the term, or a little incongruence Matt Rife has. Take a look.
So why did you decide to come on my podcast?
I'm a huge fan, man.
Oh, well, thank you, sir.
Listen, you and I have never met. I'll be truthfully honest. I haven't done extensive research into everything you've done, but I find you to...
It starts off by saying, I'm a huge fan. And then, well, I haven't done extensive research into everything you've said. The beginning of that sentence, before he cut himself off, he said, I've never. So I wonder what he was going to say before he changed his words. I wonder if he was going to say, I've never heard your stuff, or maybe he was going to say, I've never done extensive research into what you say. But if you're a huge fan of Jordan Peterson, you have an extensive history of hearing what he says, because he says a lot, which again would tell me, Matt Rife answering Jordan Peterson's question, why'd you decide to come on my podcast? And Matt Rife says, well, I'm a huge fan. I'm guessing that's not why. Because it sounds like he's not a huge fan. Sounds like he was lying on that. Probably came on his podcast because he wants massive exposure, and he wants this massive exposure so he can leverage cancel culture to get as much publicity, as much spotlight on his new special and his tour and all that stuff as possible. So, as we conclude, is this cancel culture campaign going to take down Matt Rife? Absolutely not. Is it going to hurt Matt Rife? Absolutely not. Is Matt Rife smart enough to use cancel culture for his own gain, his own monetization, and his own publicity? Absolutely. And I would love to see more and more people using cancel culture for their own gain rather than consenting to cancel culture where they lose out by being a part of cancel culture. But if you can be bigger than cancel culture, you let cancel culture be a little chess piece on your chessboard, I think that's great. We can use cancel culture and play cancel culture for the morons that they are. God love those beautiful people. Let's pray for them. But also, if you act like a moron, we're going to be honest. So hats off to Matt Rife. I think he is using this masterfully. With that said, my beautiful freedom-loving friend, I'll look forward to seeing you on our next video. But before that, stay tuned for this special message. The holidays are chock full of get-togethers, which means you inevitably run into family members who have strong yet very different political beliefs than yours, and that equals conflict. This can obviously be stressful, if not traumatizing. So here at Awaken CBD, our advice for solving this divisive dilemma is that when you're talking to your blue-haired Aunt Karen from Portland, telling her that Trump is the guy in 2024, just be sure to talk louder and louder, repeat yourself often, and interrupt her as frequently as possible. And then when that doesn't work, though it'll be fun, try our Awaken CBD Tranquility Bundle. It's complete with full spectrum CBD oil, rapid relief cream, and a 20% savings to ease your stress and bring more joy to your otherwise tense gatherings. Click the link now to get your Tranquility Bundle. Enjoy.